Hey, I'm Alex Prather, and I just finished Module 2 for SPED 507, and I wrote all my notes down, but I kind of wanted to learn how to do like videos because I figured that would probably be a big point of this class. So, I'm just gonna start. Um, First of all, we went over the history of special education, and I made this timeline, and it kind of goes from the pre-Enlightenment days where people with disabilities were shunned from society to today, where we're trying to provide the best learning environments possible for all students, not just students with disabilities or without disabilities. And then we go into the practices of special education and how we've gone from institutional models, from putting people with disabilities into institutions, to developmental models, where it said that everyone kind of developed at the same pace and all areas of their lives developed at the same pace, which we discovered was not true. So we've gone to the ecological models where everything kind of impacts your students. And we were shown a graphic kind of like this, where the student's in the center, and then as you move out, the bigger part impacts of their lives. So the small ones are like their family, their classroom, their peers, the things that they're interacting with every single day. And then the ecosystem, which includes like their neighborhoods, the media, their school boards, their extended family. So it's a bigger thing and impacts more students, but it's not, impacting the student. They don't realize that it's impacting them. And then the macro systems, which are like laws and their culture, they probably don't really realize that it's impacting them, but it impacts a ton of students. And um, then we've gone into the modern SPED, and one of the biggest things I took away is that it's not a place. I think that was emphasized a lot um, throughout all the videos, and that special education should be a collaboration between not only special education teachers but with the general education teachers, and that if we are applying for jobs, that we need to be asking these questions to make sure that their schools are giving us the tools that we need to help all students. And we should be focusing on supporting independence and self-betterment in all aspects of our students' lives, not just while they're in school, but everything that they need. All special education is federally mandated now, so we can't decide that, hey, I don't want to do this, you have to do it, which is great. And another big takeaway I got was that everything is data driven, that if we don't have data, we can't do basically anything to help our students. Then the next kind of video went into like the policies and law, and we talked about Brown versus Ford, which we talk about all the time. And it says that every kid needs an equal opportunity of education, not just people of color, different cultures, but also people with disabilities. Then it kind of went into No Child Left Behind, which says that everybody deserves a high quality education, so there's not this huge gap between high level schools and low level schools. And then talked about IDEA or IDEA, and the things that go with IDEA are zero rejects, so you can't tell somebody that they can't get an education, they can't come to the school, they can't get the services that they need. Protection and evaluation, so you have multiple evaluations that go into providing these services that students need. You're not just basing everything off of one evaluation. FAPE, free appropriate public education, so every student gets the education that they need for free in public schools and in the neighborhoods that they're living in. Least restrictive environment, which says that students with disabilities should be educated with their peers as much as possible in the least restrictive manner. So providing the services that they need, but doing it in a way that they're not feeling suffocated or they're not put in a special education room 100% of the time. Because nobody wants to do that. Everyone wants to be with their peers. Procedural due process, so if something's not going the way that you want it to go, the student wants it to go, the parents want it to go, they have ways to um, proceed through that and get the means that they need through due process. So if they need to go to a court, if they just need to um, go to the school board, whatever they need to do. And parent participation, so the parents are knowing what their students need, what evaluations that they're going on 100% of the time, and so that they can make decisions that will be best for their students. Then there's this kind of graphic that kind of goes through all of the laws that I've gone through, and we've gone from assistance, so assisting the people with disabilities and getting education, to accountability. So with NCLB, getting high quality education for everyone. Then there's this graphic that shows like the changes in special education law, and we've gone from issues of access, so getting people with disabilities education, to issues of quality, getting them high quality education, not just, every child with disability is getting an education, but now we're worried about them getting a high quality education. Another thing I learned that there's a high achievement gap between students with disabilities and students without disabilities, especially in secondary school. So, this is really relevant to all of us in this class because we're wanting to work with these secondary students. Another review thing was the 3-tier model. So I think we called it RTI in 326. So you have most of your students down here that don't need very many special services, and we're working on prevention, so we don't have to move them up on these models. Then 5 to 10% of the students that need some sort of support, some sort of response to their education, and then 1 to 5%, which is in this top tier, that is high intensity support, individualized for each student. Here is the evaluation process. So we go from the referral, which can be done by a general education teacher, a special education teacher, or a parent if they're concerned with their child's education. And then after that, the parents are informed by written consent of their rights and what's going to happen in their student's evaluation, so that parents are informed 100% of the time. Then, when the school gets the written consent from the parents, the evaluation process happens. So the student is getting more than one evaluation to make sure that they really need these supports and these services, and they need these certain types of support and services. And once they are deemed eligible, an IEP is formed, and if they're not eligible, then they move up in those 3-tier models to get the supports they need, the other interventions that they need. With least restrictive environment, the students ultimately just need to be with their peers. Nobody wants to spend all day in a classroom with other students with disabilities, away from the people without disabilities. That's, separate and not equal. It's really, least restrictive environment is ultimately data-based, like everything else in special education. It only takes students out of the general education classroom if their needs are not met. So you're trying to keep the students in general education as much as possible so that they can receive everything that their non-disabled peers are receiving. When you're determining placement, you start with FAPE, free appropriate public education. So you decide what your goals are and what's appropriate for the student and the classroom, and then you go to the placement. So what kind of aids and services do the students need? And this is only done after the IEP is formed. And if the student needs to be taken out of the classroom, then you need to provide them with integrated experiences. So you need to get them in there as much as possible. Here's the continuum of services. So you start out with the general education classroom. So students that don't need any extra support, then you go with consultative services. So in my practicum, we have a student that's blind, and his brailleist and his teacher, the visually impaired, comes in and like consults with us and tells us what we need to be doing, and we get to meet with her, and she's the expert on that. So um, we get to learn how to appropriately modify our lessons for him. Then we move on to direct support services, so probably a paraprofessional or somebody that needs to be with the student in the classroom. And then we go to resource services, so if they need to be in the resource room for some extra time with their homework or with their classwork, some one-on-one time. And then we go into outside of the classroom, so you start off with full-time in the special education classroom, which is not the best thing. You want to stay in this green area, not the blue area. And then we go into special schools and special facilities, hospitals, and homebound. And again, this is all determined by data. The placement is determined by the IEP team. Like I said before, the IEP is developed before you decide on the placement. IDEA says that all students should be in their classroom with their non-disabled peers as much as possible. And if not, then the IEP must explain why with data to support it. So everything is driven by data. You should be in your neighborhood school, so you shouldn't have to bus kids. You shouldn't bus kids across town because their neighborhood school doesn't want to deal with it. They should, with FAPE, be given the opportunity to go to their neighborhood schools with their peers in their neighborhoods. And you should also keep in mind with placement that the interests of students without disabilities. So if the student with a disability is going to cause a problem for other students to be learning in the environment, then the student with a disability needs to be reevaluated with their placement. They either need to be taken out a little bit more, have more special services, or supplementary aids to help support them and to give the students without a disability an equal opportunity at education. With discipline, as far as discipline goes, all students deserve a safe, well-disciplined school, and educators need to be told how to, the educators need to provide the tools needed to prevent misconduct. So we should be able to be given the tools we need to prevent anything happening before it does happen. And these are all proactive approaches, so you're not waiting until something happens to change. And there needs to be a balance between safe schools and the least restrictive environment. So you need to find a balance where students with disabilities are in the classroom, but also providing a safe environment for themselves and for the other students. Then the videos talked about behavioral intervention plans, functional behavior assessments, and educating staff so that everybody's well informed, everybody knows what's going on, and you can provide the best education possible for the students. And then the second part of the module went into blended learning, so that combines online learning with brick and mortar schools with teachers in them. So that's kind of what we're doing now with the flipped classroom, where we're doing everything outside, online, but then coming into class and interacting with you. And this is really individualized. That's one of my big takeaways, that with blended learning, every student has individualized instruction. They can go at their own pace. That's really beneficial for students that need that extra support, or students that want to go ahead. Their kids can learn concepts really early and really easily, and they can just move on. They're not being dragged behind with their other students. Blended learning also gives students a chance to learn computer and technology literacy. So we're providing them with the education on how to work the computer, how to move around on the internet with other programs, and we're giving them an opportunity to learn a literacy that is going to be really crucial for their future careers and future lives. What blended learning looks like, there's most of the students come in watching video lectures or doing um, some sort of learning at home, and they come in and they work in small groups on computers on either projects and collaborations, or if they don't get a chance to do their modules or programs, they can do those inside the classroom, which provides them with more interaction, one-on-one interaction with the teacher. The teacher's not trying to teach to the average student, they're being able to reach all the students in their classroom. Blended learning also provides students with immediate feedback on their tests and their quizzes, so they know exactly how they're doing, what they need to improve on, what they already have gotten, and it teaches students how to be independent. So it's their job to know um, what they need to improve on, where they are in their learning, and they're learning to be independent from their teachers and their parents, which is really great for secondary students, especially since we're trying to help them to become the best citizens they can. Blended learning also provides easy data for not only teachers but the students and their parents. So teachers know what their classes are doing, what concepts they're getting, what concepts they aren't getting. Students are seeing their grades, what they're learning and not learning, and parents are seeing their students' grades and how their students are progressing throughout the year. Blended learning also provides with more application and less lectures, so you're not spending your whole class time giving the students information, you're giving them a way to apply this information, which answers all the questions of why are we learning this, which every student asks all the time. And so they're getting the answers that they want, and they're getting more out of the lectures. They're not just trying to learn material in class and struggling for their homework. They're learning it outside of class, getting all their questions answered, and getting all their homework questions answered in class with teacher support. There was this graphic of the different models of blended learning. So you combine brick and mortar schools with online education, that's blended learning. And then all this yellow is the hybrid, so you're getting both online and brick and mortar schools together. And it combines the old and new technology. So with the rotation model, you have these different subcategories. The station rotation, so there's different stations around the classroom, and the students go to these different stations. A lab rotation, which means that there's they go to the computer lab. They spend some time in the computer lab. They spend some time in the classroom. So you're not having to do all of this outside of school. The flipped classroom is exactly what we're doing, having the lectures at home and then coming in class and doing the application process. And then the one thing in the rotation model that's not a hybrid is individualized rotation. So the students are, going at their own pace. They don't have to do all of the different rotations like in a station rotation. It's really individualized. And then the other different blended learning styles are flex model, which is fluid schedule, so the student's not held back by any other students. Their progress alone is pushing them through the system. So if they really know a concept, they don't have to spend as much time as if they don't know the concept. And then the a la carte model is all online, except for they have some outside experiences. And then the enriched virtual model is face-to-face learning sessions and online learning sessions. Then we heard from a current math teacher, and she told us why she flipped her classroom. And I think these are all really important things. She's being able to reach all of her students. She's being able to talk to all of her students and interact with all of her students. It's not just you standing up at the front and calling on kids or getting the same 5 kids talking in class. She's getting more application time, which is especially really great in math, where these students are probably having trouble outside doing their homework. They don't know. They're not getting all the concepts, so she's being able to work with him in class, learning how to apply all these concepts. And then, again, there's more interacting time with students. Individual assessment provides more data to teachers, and it's not requiring students to base all of their grades and all their accomplishments on a singular test, which is really great for students that have test anxiety or don't do as well on tests. So you're getting data not just from an assessment, but from learning all the way through your unit. And individual assessment provides for more frequent data without disruption. So you're getting data through these modules without having to break up for a test, break up for a quiz. You're getting natural progressions for your students. And then there's this really cool thing by Nervinix, I don't really remember how to pronounce it, Clarity. And it's this little device that goes on your head and it measures attention, and you can go back and relearn what you missed, which I think is really great because not everybody can focus 100% of the time on a reading or an assignment. And then you can go back and say, okay, I did miss this, and it's really great that I can go back and realize exactly what I missed. One of the readings went into the differences between IDEA and 504, and I think the biggest differences are 504, you don't really need any consent, you just need some notice to the parents, and you don't need like a formal comprehensive evaluation in 504 as you do in IDEA. I do have some concerns. I don't know if you're going to have to choose in class or whatever, but about flipping classrooms. I'm just going to say them. So one of my concerns is what if a child comes in every day without doing their flipped lecture? So the teacher that talked about flipping her classroom, she said that if a student hasn't done their assignment, done their lecture, they can go and do that. I'm kind of concerned because the whole point of flipping the classroom is being able to interact with students more and help them with their application process. And if a student comes in every day without doing that, then they're basically just getting a traditional education and not getting really the benefits of flipping the classroom. And another one of my concerns is the time spent working at home, because I don't know how long these lectures or these flip things outside are, and if all 7 classes a student takes are requiring them to watch a 10-minute video, they're spending over an hour just watching lectures at home, and they've already spent 7 hours at school, and I think as a student that could be a little overwhelming. Another one of my concerns is if a student doesn't have access to a computer or internet, does the school provide the computers for them to take home? Do they provide internet access? If they don't have internet access, I think that could be a really big problem with the online learning, and I think that would really affect people in rural and urban centers especially. And then another thing that the teacher talked about with flipping the classroom made it sound like she was kind of tracking her students. I don't know if anybody else got that feeling, but how she kind of like put them in peer groups where they were doing individualized projects. And I feel like if the students would kind of figure out that, oh, all the people that are really doing well are over here, but I'm not in that group, so what am I doing wrong? And they would like look at the different projects and be like, oh, why am I not doing that project? Why am I doing this project? And I think that would kind of be negative for the kids that weren't doing so well, and they would feel kind of bad. They weren't doing as well as some other peers. And then another one of the videos talked about how that these invisible assessments in classrooms can help kids on career paths, which I also kind of think is tracking. Like, it kind of makes it so that the kid is like not necessarily forced, but kind of like pushed into a direction of one career instead of another. I think that could be a little overwhelming as a student to think that, oh, we're kind of pushing you this way, but I don't know if that's how it works or not. So that's all the notes I have. This is my first video, so I'm going to hope that it works, and I'll see you all in class on Tuesday.